Hi, everyone. I'm Allison McGill, editor-in-chief of Weddingbells magazine. I'd like to welcome you to our very first Zoom event live in conversation with Wedding Bells, and we have a great lineup today. These rock star ladies are really at the forefront of what's happening in the wedding industry, which is an awful lot, as we know, ladies. So why don't I do a little roundup of everybody introducing themselves, and we've got covered from west to east. So I'm going to start with Allie. Say hello, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Allison. Hi, everyone. I'm Allie Armstrong. I'm the owner of Allie Armstrong Event Planning and Design, I guess better known as Events by Allie on social media. And I am based out of Vancouver. And thank you for having me today.
Thanks for being here, Allie. I feel like your wedding show was the last thing I did before lockdown. We had a great time at Fleur, and then we were home.
I feel like it was kind of the last time everyone was out of their houses. I'm just thankful that it happened at this point.
And it was wonderful. And I'm going to go to Laura at Tendido. And you were the second last person I was with. We had a wonderful retreat at Langdon Hall, the curators retreat. So Laura, you're with Laura & Co Events. Do a little intro, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Laura with Laura & Co Events. I'm one of the creative directors here. And it is so nice to be with all of you in this lovely, lovely quarantine time. So thank you, Allison, for having me.
Thanks for joining us. And Melanie, in Quebec, you're having the heat wave today. Introduce, please.
Yes, bonjour. My name is Melanie. I'm the owner of Fou d'Amour in Montreal. I've been running this business for 5 years now. And I'm super happy to be here with you, even if it's quite hot, yes, in Montreal.
And last but certainly not least, we have Lexi, and I have to say congratulations, Lexi. You're the winner of the 2020 Weddingbells Award, wedding planner, and your real wedding also took home the gold.
Yay! Thank you. Yeah, it was a good year. Hi, I'm Lexi, and I'm the owner and operator of Lexington & Co Events. I'm also in Toronto, and very excited to be here. So thanks so much for including me.
Thank you for being here. So ladies, we have a lot of points that I sent you today to cover. We could probably just talk for ad nauseum at one point, but let's kick off the conversation because you guys are really on the front lines of what's happening with weddings. So where are we at right now when we're talking about the 2020 wedding landscape? I know we're at different parts of the country and we're in different phases. So maybe Allie, you should kick it off because I feel like British Columbia is a little further ahead than the rest of the country. So what's happening in your world and where are we at with postponements? Are people going to get married in 2020? Let's have a chat about that.
So where we're at in BC currently is we're allowed to have up to 50 people at an event with physical distancing measures and safe protocols in place. So a lot of people I'm hearing, including my own clients, are moving forward with a more intimate celebration this year. Some are having a ceremony only, they're gonna party later, big bash next year. Well, then I have other clients that are just postponing to 2021, mainly those that have large events or people coming in from other countries, including the US, because what's still in place in BC is that mandatory 14-day quarantine, which makes it difficult for guests to get here for even intimate celebrations. But a lot of venues here in BC are getting really creative and offering different packages to accommodate that micro wedding. The Fairmont Pac Rim just released something yesterday. I've just launched my own mini micro wedding package. So there's a lot of creativity happening and there's ways to still do an intimate celebration beautifully and most importantly safely in 2020.
Great. Lexi and Laura, I want to talk to both of you because you're both in the Toronto market. Lexi, tell me a little bit about where you're at with your couples and planning and what's happening.
Right now, we are moving a lot of our celebrations to 2021. We still have some fall weddings that we're hopeful, but as times we're kind of getting our updates, and so right now, majority of our summer weddings are postponing to 2021. Similar, we are doing some smaller weddings to still commemorate the day because, we have some couples that still really want to get married on their original wedding date, which is great. Those who have marriage licenses are right now able to, have their wedding officiated. Others are just doing more of like a vow celebration and kind of a mini wedding, like a mini wedding for them.
Great. Laura, what are you finding?
Yeah, very similar to Lexi's experience. We've pretty much seen all of our, obviously, spring and summer weddings completely move. We have a few things that are holding for some of our more local-based clients in the fall, so from September onwards. But we have such a vast kind of different clientele in the sense that, some people are super small and super local, and some of our events and clients, reside outside of the country. So there's kind of a spectrum with, who's willing to wait it out a little bit longer, and what of our clients we know right now, they can't even come into the country and with the quarantine in place. And I think with how slow we've seen the opening, I mean, even the advice that we were giving our clients, at the end of March when this first started, for fall weddings is very different than what we're kind of guiding them with today, just because in Ontario, we're still at that 5-person minimum. So likewise, we're just seeing a ton of clients either move into 2021 or readjust their plans. And I actually think there's a new trend starting, and I hope it continues beyond COVID, which is really small mini micro weddings and then postponing the big reception to another date and time, which I think is really nice, because I think everyone has probably been there where that disagreement happens, and couple maybe wants a small wedding, family want big, or vice versa. And so some of our clients are now, because of COVID, having the best of both worlds. We're aiming for a 25, 30-person wedding, towards the end of this year if we can, and then a big party next year.
Great. I feel like you were one of the first people I spoke to COVID hit, and you did a great information package for us on Weddingbells about where COVID was. And I actually was reviewing that story because it's about coming up 3 months old now, and so much has changed. Like the landscape, it was really like day to day, week to week. And you make a really good point that where we're at in Ontario, and particularly, we're still at that 5-person maximum, and our restrictions really haven't been eased as much.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we're now experiencing second postponements with our couples, because for some of them, we were right out of the gate in early March, right when things were hitting, being proactive and postponing till, September, October, November. And now we're like, oh boy, like September, October, November was not far enough out. You just didn't have the hindsight. I think the biggest thing we all keep saying is these are unprecedented times. None of us have the information to make fully informed decisions, and we've never been here before either. So it's really doing the best we can.
Absolutely. And Melanie, let's talk about what's happening in Quebec, because obviously Quebec has been, Ontario and Quebec, the hardest hit areas. Quebec is opening up a little bit, but I feel that there's still lots of restrictions happening there. What are you encountering?
Yes, right now we can have gatherings of 10 people maximum. So it makes it very difficult for people to, have their wedding. So in my case, almost all my wedding, 100% of my wedding have been postponed to next year. I still have one wedding in October, so we're hoping that we can still make it happen. But we're, I have a call with my clients to find a plan B. So right now, we're not very, I don't know if weddings will happen this year in Montreal. So probably, as everyone else said, small, intimate micro weddings, but 10 people is very micro. So I don't know if, depending on, what's the news in the coming week, but right now, and it's probably the same for almost all planners, we all postpone our weddings for 2021, yes.
Great. I want to get back to talking about the micro wedding trend, and I agree with Laura. I think it's kind of maybe a nice thing and a different thing that's going to come out of this. But first, I want to talk to you guys about, what's been the most difficult thing as a professional, and what's been the most difficult for couples to handle. I mean, weddings they're like an octopus. There's so many parts and moving parts and vendors involved, and completely stressful for couples and also for the people who are involved in planning the wedding. So maybe Laura, you could kick off the conversation about that with us.
I think one of the most challenging things for our clients has been managing the movement of their vendors. As a planner, I definitely can say that I think I speak for all of us. We've never probably been more busy, and we've never probably been a stronger asset, hopefully, to our clients. But just being able to realign vendors, navigating what to do when, you know, all of your vendors don't line up for the ideal dates, because everything really starts with what dates your venue can give you. And then you kind of start working down the list and compiling all those options with your vendor availability. Best case scenario, it is to move everybody, but availability issues have become a challenge. You know, pricing issues in terms of clients moving into 2021, and, you know, how vendors are able to adjust, you know, for most of us as small businesses. And I would say, as a planner specifically, also just kind of being that middle person where you're always working, you know, with the best interests of your clients involved, but you're also managing relationships with all of the vendors that, you know, for most of us who are kind of lifers in this industry, you know, those relationships, you know, carry on for years to come. So I think those kind of three things: managing the availability of vendors, you know, the financial setbacks to what postponement can cost a client, as well as just being that middle person between trying to, you know, do the best for your clients, but also, you know, be that person that your vendors are also counting on to help guide the process and kind of mediate it efficiently.
Excellent. And I think, you know, that's a really important thing that you talked about, because that's a question I'm asked a lot about. How is it working with, you know, with vendors and refunds and things like that? Melanie, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, I guess it depends on each vendors. Most of the weddings, or most of the vendors, accepted, you know, they were very flexible, and everyone accepted to move or reduce any deposit for a date next year. But also, it depends on, you know, the contract. So I don't want to speak for everyone, but in most cases, people were super flexible. They understand the situation, but at the same time, as Laura said, there's small businesses, so sometimes it's difficult for them to, you know, to refund. And usually, refunds are made for this. It's to reserve the date. This means that the vendor was not able to take on another client for your date. So it's all, you know, we have, as Laura said again, we have to manage expectations from the client, and also a relationship with our vendors. So, but in my case, it was easy. Everyone was very flexible, so we didn't have trouble.
Great. Ali, what's your thoughts on this? What's been the hardest part for yourself and for people getting married?
The hardest part for me personally is the uncertainty, because my clients are looking to me for answers, and unfortunately we haven't been given clear instructions, you know, from the government, from the province of British Columbia specifically. There's been a lot of gray areas, and events are not the same as restaurants, for example. And there was a very clear, you know, plan that was rolled out that restaurants can follow as to the protocols that they need to put into place in order to reopen. And events have been a little bit overlooked. And my feeling is, you know, we closed down the economy in stages and in phases. So we went from, you know, any size event down to 250, down to, you know, it was 100, and then it was 0. But, you know, from what I've heard, it's basically 50 is the limit in BC, and then it's going to be unlimited guest count. And I really am hoping, and there's a lot of us advocating for a reopening phase that was similar to the closing phase, where maybe we can eventually get those numbers up to 100. Maybe by next spring, we can get them up to 250. I mean, I might be living, you know, my head in the cloud a little bit, but I'm trying to stay really positive for my client's sake. But at the same time, the events that we're able to do in BC with 50 people, I hope if we can prove that we can implement safe measures and have those events safely, there's a large enough venue. If it's outside, for example, I'm hoping we can kind of, you know, push the envelope there. But the hardest thing has been not being able to give a clear answer to clients as to when this is going to end, because I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, and I really wish I did. And, you know, to kind of echo Melanie, I've been fortunate that we haven't run into too many availability issues with vendors. I can see how that would be a really hard thing to manage if vendors weren't available on the same date next year. I think what I've seen in a couple of vendor Facebook groups that I'm in is the trickiest part is if a client decides they no longer want to have a wedding, they're just going to do something with their partner and they're asking for their deposit back. And I think that's a big conversation amongst vendors is, vendors hold deposits and turn away other business and save that date. So, while moving a deposit is so different than canceling an event, and I think vendors are so happy. It's, we're all in this together. We want to make it work for our clients. We're moving our deposits. We're doing the best we can, but cancellations are being treated a little bit different because a lot of us are small business, and to refund multiple clients is an impossible task for some, right? So that's where it gets a little bit tricky.
Lexi, your feelings,
Yeah.
thoughts, problems?
I know. I feel like all of them are very much covered because we're all going through a very similar, time where we are really trying to support our clients because we really want to make them happy. We are part of a wedding planning business. We're not necessarily corporate. So there's a lot of emotion that goes into these days. And, we have really good relationships with our vendors and we have really good relationships with our clients. So it's really important for us, for both sides to be happy. And at the same time, we are a vendor. I think one of the challenges is having our clients, in terms of kind of pivoting their mind a bit and wrapping their head around a little bit of a different celebration than what they expected, and to be, adaptable in this time. And that's why it's so great when you see, couples still celebrating their actual wedding day and okay with postponing their reception. It just, the date might be a little bit different. They might not have a Saturday wedding. It might be a different season, but, if our clients have planners like us, we're able to make those changes for them. So, we're just doing our best to manage the situation and to also keep positive. And, we celebrate love and we want to make sure that we're all taking care of each other in this.
Well, I think that deserves a little bit of applause for all you ladies and everything you've been handling. Lexi, let's talk a little bit about the micro wedding. I want to get everyone's take on that because you hit the nail on the head. A lot of people have a hard time wrapping their head around that they won't be having, what their dream wedding looked like. It may be and smaller, like it will be smaller. And this is going to be the way it is for the foreseeable future. I mean, I read your article in the Vancouver Sun Alley about the Vancouver scene, and basically they said no bigger gatherings than 50 until there's a vaccine. So we don't know when that is. So Lexi, why don't you talk a little bit about what we're calling the mini monies, mini weddings, intimate weddings. There's so many words for them right now. But let's talk about that and embracing that.
Absolutely. I love the idea of an intimate ceremony. I mean, I love the idea of a big reception too, because the party is so much fun, but what we can do right now is the intimate ceremonies for us in Toronto. And I think there's something really special. I was talking to Danielle Gulick from Lover's Land, and she was saying, if couples can get through quarantine right now, what a better time to celebrate love, because, if you can get through that every day being with your partner, that is a celebration in itself, because there's so many challenges that go along with that. And we need reasons to celebrate. So it kind of takes us back to the basics of why you're getting married and what marriage is about, and that's about partnerships. So if we can really focus and adapt to the new norm right now, I think that there's a lot of beauty to be shared within it. And maybe that's taking pieces from your original wedding, like your bouquet and your original wedding invitation, and still telling a story with even vendors that are taking part in your 2021 reception, and kind of doing that micro wedding so that they really do connect from the now until next year.
Great. Excellent. Melanie, what are you finding happening with mini moons? What's the sort of the feeling that people are having towards them? I mean, mini monies. I'm used to saying mini moons because there's many moons of, right?
Right now, I don't know if this is really happening in Quebec. I haven't seen it happen much, but I've spoken with some of my colleagues, florist colleagues, and they say that they do get some requests. So people might want to do a small ceremony, either for their initial date or for another date. But still, because we can only have, and it's just been 1 week that we can have a gathering of 10 people. So I think right now people are still stating they don't know, if it's even going to be possible to have more than 10 people. So I think right now people are waiting to see what's going to happen. But I think all the vendors are trying to, come up with ideas or solution for this new trend. So just to maybe get ahead of the game and offer something different probably in the next few months.
Right. Ali, you noted about the Fairmont Pacific Rim introducing intimate wedding packages. The Royal York has recently just done that. I've been getting that information too. So, I mean, you're at the maximum for guests right now for 50. So how are your intimate weddings rolling out and being received? Because that's kind of a real mind shift for couples.
Absolutely. I mean, there's two sides of this. There's, the client has to decide if that will work for them. And the ones that are moving ahead with those intimate weddings, and I would say under 50 is still an intimate kind of micro wedding, it provides a fun opportunity for them to save some money on food and beverage and have all of the pretty details that they could ever dream of. So I know a couple of my favorite events I've ever done are small in that 40 to 60 range. Photography, I mean, you can still, wear your outfit that you picked out, and in BC, you can get your hair and makeup done now and, have those photos and really memorialize your date or that moment. But the vendors have been working so hard. We've been chatting, offline and in different groups about the different protocols, and the planners in Vancouver anyway are working on a playbook that we all want to agree upon and implement the same protocols at events. Caterers are working hard on implementing safe measures around food and beverage service, and as you probably know, like buffets are a thing of the past, and we have to look at different ways of safely serving food and beverage. Past canapes are not an option right now. So the event will look different, but I'm really confident that at the 50 mark anyway, I know how fortunate we are in BC right now that we can still have a beautiful and quite normal celebration. I mean, one thing that we're doing at this outdoor venue that I'm working with is we're seating people by household. So instead of a long table, they're going to be beautiful, like two people to 6 people per table, around the lawn. And I think that's just fun. And right now people want that human connection. And my hope is they'll feel excited and grateful to be, having an event, and the attendee hopefully will be excited to be at an event. But we do need to be extremely cautious and be strict with those protocols. But I think we can do that without taking away from the ambiance.
Absolutely. And Laura, you tabled this a little while ago, but it's this trend towards having the micro wedding and then a bigger party afterwards. What are you seeing happening, and how's the attitude shift going?
Yeah, we've seen our clients kind of take it from 3 different perspectives. Some of our clients are recognizing that, look, if we're going to try to push ahead for, a 200-300 person gathering for this fall, early winter, it's likely not going to happen. So let's at least aim for something a little bit more realistic based on where we're sitting today. So some of our clients have decided just to take their whole big wedding and just scale that right down to their immediate group of kind of family, and in some cases not even friend circles, but in some cases immediate. So just sticking and hovering somewhere around that kind of 40 to 50 mark, because they feel at this point that's at least more likely than their original guest count, and that would be their only celebration. Some of our clients have decided they're going to try to keep their original wedding date if they can, do their original ceremony where it was to be, again with a stripped down guest list. If they can do a little mini reception somewhere, again, 30 to 50 people max, that's lovely. And then they'll postpone the big 300 person party, well into, 2021, where they feel like it's safer to have larger gatherings. And then we have some other clients that have completely moved their entire wedding ceremony and reception but are holding on to this idea that when we can, they would love to still be able to actually legally marry, which for a lot of our clients means, getting their marriage license or, having it reissued if it's expired. And for some of those clients, what we're hoping to do is get into their wedding venue where they were to be married, do a very private, intimate, beautiful celebration with just bride and groom, their witnesses, have photography and cinematography document that, and edit that down as a fun surprise to show their guests that their postponement wedding in 2021, to be like, hey, guess what? Where we're all sitting right now today, we actually came here last year and we made it official. So COVID couldn't really take away that from us. So it's kind of a shift, but I mean, for some of my clients, I know they're going to have their dream wedding. If they can have 40 people and have an intimate celebration, that's what they wanted. Just family dynamics didn't allow for that because you didn't want to offend Zia Maria or, your third cousin's, brother's wife. So, all of those things, I think we're just shifting to a new climate where people understand that social gatherings and celebrations need to be adjusted in terms of numbers. So less people are going to be offended now if they realize that a couple has gone ahead with a smaller celebration. And it's also about, I think, being aware to open up to read what the climate of our society is that, even though we may get the numbers starting to open up, it's, are guests expected to travel? Are they going to be comfortable traveling? Even some of our clients have guests, that are traveling by car a couple of hours, but they're going to be forced to stay in a hotel. So, my whole family lives 3 hours away. Will they want to travel in 2020 still, even if it's just by car? So I think too, a lot of our clients are just recognizing that even though the government may say, okay, now we're like BC at 50, now we're at 75, is the climate there to have the wedding that you really want, or is it worth postponing?
Right. And that leads me into my next loaded question about what is the wedding landscape looking like for 2021? What are we looking at in terms of, do you have, if you haven't booked by now, are you out of luck? Are we booking 7 days a week? What is it looking like? Ali, why don't you kick it off?
Yeah, it's going to be a busy year. I mean, we're hopeful that weddings will be able to resume. I'm still a little cautious, anything over 250. And I mean, that number hasn't even been released yet. So right now we're at 50 for the next 12 to 18 months as per, the province of BC's plan. I'm hopeful we'll see more than that by next summer, but it's going to be a busy year where I think people will have to look at different days of the week because there's only so many venues to go around. But I think it will be perfectly socially acceptable next year, given the circumstances, to have weddings on other days other than Saturday. There's still some availability. I think that there's a mixed feeling of some apprehension perhaps in booking even in 2021. So it's really kind of all over the map. There's still some availability, which is good news, but 2022 might be the more realistic year for those larger celebrations, especially if culture comes into play. You've got those huge, some of these celebrations are so massive. 2022 might be more realistic for those. But again, there's kind of all over the map. But regardless, it's going to be a busy year.
Absolutely. Melanie, you sound like your year is 2021 at this point, so you're going to be very busy.
Yes, I am, because of course there was weddings that were already booked for next year, so sometimes it was difficult to make sure that we didn't have any double weddings. So I think one thing that we see happening is people are considering even getting married in their backyards, because if at some point there is no venue available, you have to come up with a solution to get married anyway. And personally, I'm more I don't really do 300 or 400 people weddings, so I'm kind of already doing more intimate wedding, 100, 125 people. So I think I see a lot of people are considering getting married at home, just to avoid this, because even if we say you can get married on a Friday or on a Sunday, people are kind of reluctant. They really want to get married on a Saturday, and I can totally understand this. But there's so many Saturdays, in a year, so, and especially in summer. So, yeah.
Great. Toronto peeps. Laura, thoughts?
Somebody referred to it as the double cohort recently, and that's kind of how I feel like it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I always told my husband, be careful what you wish for, because he used to talk all the time about what would it be like to have me home for a summer. And now it's like we're going to be spending a lot of time together. But, it kind of like echo what Ali mentioned, there some of our newer clients and inquiries, there's a bit of a hesitation because there's so much uncertainty. So what's realistic? But something I can say I've experienced in the Toronto market is it's like, if you want to get married next year, especially May through to the end probably of September, like dates are just flying like that. And I mean, that was probably one of our biggest challenges was we were like, up to here in postponements, but then up to here in new bookings. And I mean, normally, sitting 12 to 18, months out from a wedding date, you had a plethora of options for vendors. And all of a sudden it was, so many vendors like ourselves were moving clients into 2021, but the availability is significantly less than what it used to be. So, our wedding is going to be able to happen to the scope that we want in 2021. We sure hope so. If you want a chance of it, yes, we are telling our clients, we got to secure these vendors and you have to move forward, because if you wait it out until you feel confident, you're going to be looking at, a Tuesday wedding to probably realign the vendors that you want. And I mean, I think it's a lot about mindset. I mean, we've seen a lot of our clients adjust easily to Fridays and Sundays. Even Thursdays are starting. And I know it's that initial like Thursday wedding, but I always say, we're in unprecedented times. Your guests are going to understand. And when that day comes, honestly, a Thursday, those moments, they feel as real as they were and as much of importance and significance if it was a Saturday. It's as you start living it out from getting ready to walking down the aisle, those moments don't have a day of the week attached to them. It's just your day. So if you can get beyond that, it'll open up opportunities as well.
Absolutely. Lexi, do you think people who think they might want to get married in 21 or 2022, but aren't engaged yet, do you recommend don't wait to be engaged, get on it?
Who needs a ring?
Well, exactly. It's a little bit of a nuanced, it's a new way of planning, right? We're going a little backwards, but realistically, and I mean, I know in the Toronto market, Laura hit that on the head. It's it's very competitive for spaces.
It's very competitive. And that's the thing is, I mean, I've had clients reach out before they've been engaged and had the ring on before and said, this is the venue that we really want to get married, or this photographer is the most important to us. What date are they available? I'll be getting engaged in the next couple months. And so we've kind of planned it a little bit backwards. So yeah, definitely. I mean, with the vendors and with the venues right now, even for our 2021 clients that are new to us, we are getting on the vendor train fast because, especially depending on the budgets that we're working with, there's some higher price vendors, there's lower price vendors. And so we have to, for clients that maybe don't have a huge budget and maybe have a more comfortable budget but don't want to be spending as much on photographers, well, then we have to get on that because those better priced vendors, they go really, really fast. Mm-hmm. Right. So we're planning a little bit differently and we're very busy right now. We even with 2022 clients, looking at that date, it feels far, but even if you've seen how fast, the past 3 months have flown by, next year will be here before we know it, right? So
yes. Now, do you think there'll be a concern because weddings really had become all season? Winter weddings have become very popular. With the circumstances we're dealing with now, and do you think winter weddings will become less popular because of the indoors and that element of spacing? It's something to be considered because, again, Laura, you mentioned about that window that's always typically wedding season, but we have seen it spread out.
Yeah.
We feel like this is going to be
I think it's definitely going to condense things because I feel like there's that talk of the second wave and what next flu season will be like and how combined with influenza. So that's, again, to kind of go back to your last question, people that want to we have a lot of our clients, even clients who are postponing, looking at I want to postpone beyond next flu season. And that's when they feel, more comfortable. So I do think winter weddings for over that 2020 into 2021, I think they're definitely going to take, a big pause, which only makes, May, April onwards going to be incredibly busy and availability, less and less sparse.
On that note, one thing I wanted to toss out quickly was to talk about a destination wedding, because that seems very off the books for a very long time. Are people still holding hope for that? Do we see that happening, Allie?
Well, there was kind of two loaded questions there, Allison. Is if people are holding out, they could be. I personally wouldn't feel confident at this point that a destination wedding would be able to move ahead. And even if it was allowed, I think it's a behavior thing. Will guests feel comfortable traveling, getting on an airplane? And then right now, we're not seeing that mandatory quarantine being lifted. So it's not just taking the time to attend a wedding, it's the 2 weeks that you're committing to quarantining upon return. I'm not sure when that's going to get lifted, but I'm not that hopeful. Destination weddings are that realistic this year.
I agree.
Anyone else? I mean, I tend to agree. I ask this question because again, just keeping in the loop with things, I've been getting some international updates from hotels that are reopening and offering intimate wedding packages, and, all well and good, but, how are we getting to Italy? Is my question. So it's interesting, like things are opening up, but I think that the main thing is people need to really be realistic. And I think at the beginning of this pandemic, I think you would all agree, we didn't know what we're dealing with. We still don't, but the crystal ball has sort of shown us that it's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. And keeping it local is probably the smartest thing you can do.
Well, that's what like a fair handful of our micro wedding inquiries have been, is couples that are like, we were supposed to get married this summer in Italy, we were supposed to get married this summer in Portugal, and they're just realizing that like postponing that wedding is just off the table, unless they want to get married in 2023.
Wow, 2023, we haven't married.
Wow.
On anyone's schedule?
Like,
No.
No, maybe next week though.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to wrap this up, ladies. This has been amazing. So I'm just going to go around and give you an opportunity to do a little, go rogue, a little freestyle, just contribute things that you think are valuable, things that you've faced, just sort of a summation of where we're at. And I want to thank you all again for joining us. So Lexi, I'm going to start with you.
Sure. I feel like when I used to be a dancer, this was the time at the end of the dance where they're like, freestyle, do whatever you'd like.
Jazz.
Yeah. I think, in terms of closing our conversation, one thing to think about right now, and I guess that's the only thing that we are certain is right now where we are at, and within the box that we have been given, to find ways to be creative, even that's what we are doing as wedding planners, finding ways to be creative even with these smaller ceremonies. One of the more, this is a time that we're being creative and being inspired. One of the things that I've been inspired by, and I'm sure everyone has seen this, is that beautiful viral Brooklyn, New York. They did like a beautiful floral install, and the couple got married on the street, and everybody was dancing, and it was something that was really different, really unique, but really celebrated, and everyone could feel that energy. They had an amazing photographer and a videographer, and they had masks on. But I think that this box that we're given right now, we'd have to do our best to be creative in it, and it's definitely a challenging time, but just to keep as positive we can. And then, we're here to support. So any questions or anything like that in terms of moving weddings, or questions, like we've even opened up for, for my company in terms of people that aren't even our clients, just to pop in and ask questions if they have it on how to,
How to deal?
How to deal.
I'm glad you brought up the stoop wedding. That is,
I loved it.
I used to be the editor of Teen Vogue. If everyone hasn't seen it, it's amazing. Like the Flowers Alone by Lewis Miller were out of this world. And, she really made a statement with this wedding, and she embraced the circumstances, and I just loved it. Like, she just rocked it. Melanie, your final closing thoughts?
Well, I think what we have to remember is that no matter when you're going to get married, you are going to get married. At the end of the day, you're going to be marrying the love of your life with, you know, even if it's not 300 people, you're still going to have your favorite people with you. So I think this is what we have to keep in mind. It's difficult, but I think this pandemic showed us that everyone is so, I think the word is like benevolent, you know, there's so much love. And I think you can all see that people in the wedding industry were resilient. I don't know what's the English word, but you know, we want to make it the best day for you. So even if you get married next year, I'm sure it's going to be hell of a party.
Allie?
Yeah, to echo Lexi, I think this is the year of creativity. There's a lot of venues, a lot of vendors that are thinking outside of the box and have really unique offerings this year that aren't going to be offered any other year. Obviously, vendors have a little bit more capacity in 2020. So I am looking at it through kind of that positive lens where there's some opportunities now that exist to get married in places that you maybe couldn't get married in before. Even, you know, there's different hotels where parts of their hotels will remain closed to the public, but they're offering them for, you know, private events, like private pool areas, you know, estates. I think that there's just a lot of opportunity as well. And I get that it might not be, you know, plan A, but I always go with the thought that the plan B can still look like a plan A. And I think that, you know, it can still be intimate, special, beautiful, and just the best day of your life, even if it has to be a little bit more intimate than originally planned.
Sometimes plan Bs are meant to be. I believe that. Laura, final thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's important to also just say to, like, especially to brides and grooms, you know, who are watching, who have, you know, been affected by COVID with their wedding plans, is like, as an industry, as a community, we really, really get it. And we're so sorry and we empathize so much. And, you know, I think I always say, you know, there's two unique events in life that bring people together, weddings and funerals. And I'm not cut out to be a funeral director, but so many of us got involved with weddings because we absolutely love what they stand for. And we just love being a part of those celebrations and working with our clients to build towards them. So, you know, for us as an industry, it's not just, you know, from a business financial, you know, adjustment, you know, so much of us, you know, every day that's passed that was supposed to be one of my clients' wedding day, like I woke up sad, you know, and it was always in the back of my mind. I would be doing this then, you know, my bride would be doing the first look now. So I think it's, you know, first and foremost, like, we get it. It really does suck. And it's heartbreaking. And this is, you know, this wasn't the way it was supposed to be. And we're sorry for that. And I think some other things too are just try to focus on your relationship through this. You know, it's really trying times, I'm sure, for a lot of our clients who have been affected. The wedding is just one part of the stress in their life. There can be, you know, stress with, you know, other personal aspects of their friends or families, you know, health concerns, financial concerns, you know, job security. Like, everybody's whole life has just been totally kind of, you know, just turned upside down. And so at a time like this, you know, just really try to focus too on your relationship and kind of seeing the, you know, the light at the end of this. And, you know, love isn't canceled. It's been one of those kind of like hashtags thrown everywhere, but it really is true. And likewise, you know, a few of you have touched on that too. And there's great venues in Toronto that are opening up, you know, to say, if you want to do an intimate, you know, celebration here in terms of just a beautiful ceremony, a venue that maybe you didn't usually have access to, you know, is going to be open to you. And so be open, be creative. But yeah, you know, we get it. And we're so sorry. And, you know, we hope that there's going to be light sooner than later at the end of the tunnel. And that, you know, when we all get there, gosh, I just say, like, how great is that best man speech going to be now? Like, how awesome, you know, is that walk down the aisle going to be, that first kiss? Like, those moments will mean that much more in whatever capacity you have them when you get there, because I think we've all had so much time in quarantine to be grounded and reflect, you know, on what's really important. And so I think those moments, you know, for yourself as a couple, for us as vendors, for your guests and family, I think they'll just have that elevated sense of appreciation. Yeah.
Excellent. Ladies, I want to say thank you so much. Laura, Melanie, Lexi, Allie, you've been invaluable today, delivering information about what's happening in the industry, supporting couples. We're in this together, and we're still, it's an uncertain time, but I believe it's an exciting time. And I think we've all agree
Mhm.
about that. Weddings are looking a little different, and the future is bright because these parties are going to be pretty epic once we get going again. And the minute someone gets a 2023 booking, I want to know about it, please.
Yeah.
That's my destination client to Portugal.
Got that check. Thank you, ladies, for taking the time to join us
Thanks,
here with Wedding.
Allison.
I really
Thanks
appreciate
so
it.
much, Allison, for
Thank you,
having me.
Allison.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Keep well,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Be safe.
Bye.